So you get into the hobby and everything goes good. You have some beautiful fish, beautiful aquarium, everything's perfect, and suddenly something's starting to happen with your tank and you don't know why. Well, I'm gonna tell you the first thing you need to get to troubleshoot any of the issue in the aquarium hobby will be to get yourself a test kit. You can either get the solution or the test strip, and I'm going to tell you why you have to start with this step. We're going to talk about what all those levels mean and how it's going to affect your water. Hey, welcome to another episode of Ben African Cyclists. So let's get into it right away. So the first thing that you're going to look here is going to be your pH. So this is the low pH, this is the high pH. And a master kit like this, you get one bowl of each, so you can try to find out where your pH of your water is. And the thing why you need to know that, it's sometimes some of the fish will thrive more into a pH closer to neutral. Some fish species, depending which lake, like American cichlids and stuff like that, might thrive into a pH that's more like into a 6.6, 6.8. And then some other fish like African cichlids will like better a pH of 8. Now, when they're breed in a tank, you might be like when they're from a breeder and they're bred locally, you might be able to go a little bit higher, a little bit lower into the pH that what's in the lake because they're not wild caught. But yeah, so if your fish are not breeding, then you might be off the chart with your pH. So it might be too high, too low. That will affect the eggs. That will affect if the fish wants to breed, if they feel comfortable in your tank, and yeah, it's probably going to affect too if the fish are not comfortable because the pH is off. Then if you see your fish flicker at the bottom of the tank, sometimes it might be a sign that the pH is off. So, you know, if you see that happening in your tank, then or you're having too much trouble getting your fish to breed, even though you have the good ratio of male to female and they're all adult, then that might be your issue right there. So that will be the first thing that people ask you about: how's your pH? That also can affect your fish health for their immune system. So if the pH is too off compared to where the fish like to be in nature, then that might affect their immune system. And yeah, pH also going to affect what kind of plant you can keep in your tank. Like, you know, you might do good water change and keep all your level properly, but your plant might be dying off if you have like the wrong pH for them to thrive. Now don't pay attention to this tank here. Those Strophius, they're vegetarian and they actually eat the plants, so that's why all of those jungle valve are that small. that small. I bought them from Brittany from Physiotherapy. Shout out to Physiotherapy. She opened her store sometime in January. Well, this month. I think the grand opening is soon. But anyway, so I bought like all of those plants from her, and they were actually like nice and big and going around the top of the aquarium. But yeah, those fish just eat everything. But I'm able to do a good enough job, and they grow fast enough to keep having plants in there all the time, so that keeps the fish occupied. Okay, so the next step that people are going to ask now, if you know about the nitrogen cycle, which I have a video about that, I'm going to link it above if you didn't watch it yet and you don't know about it. Nitrogen cycle and big, it's uh, ammonia gets created in your tank, then it's switched to your beneficial bacteria eats it and it transforms it into nitrite, and then your other beneficial bacteria eats that and they transform it into nitrate. Okay, so those level will affect a lot your aquarium. Ammonia, for example, is super toxic, so any amount in your tank is going to be a trouble for your fish. So is nitrite, is very toxic. Any amount will affect your fish and cause issues. And then nitrite is not really toxic until it gets really high, but this will still affect what's happening with your fish. So, and a master kit like this, by the way, I'm not sponsored by API, but I got that API master kit that I'm using. So in the master kit, you'll get the 2 bottles to be able to test low pH, high pH, and then you'll get the 2 bottle you have to mix together for ammonia, 1 bottle for nitrite, and 2 bottles for nitrate. So anyway, there's the instruction. I might do a video about how to mix everything and test it to have accurate result, but that will be another video. In this video, we're just going to talk about how it affects your fish. Okay, so ammonia. What ammonia will do to your fish, it will burn their lungs and make some sores on them. They might have a little bit of trouble breathing because of that. If you have high ammonia in your tank, it will also affect the reproductive system of your fish because it's kind of like acidic, it burns the fish. So yeah, any amount in there is gonna start causing trouble. It might affect the fish coat, the slime coat I mean, and yeah, you'll have fish dying and pretty quickly. Even though you would have a small amount of ammonia in your tank, they won't be able to deal with this for that long. And then the higher the amount, the faster your fish will die. So anyway, so this, you'll have to fix that right away. So that will be the first thing why people ask you if all your levels are in your tank. So we want to see that at 0. Nitrate will do the same kind of things to your fish. So it also will burn your fish and cause lots of health issue, and it start deteriorating their immune system right away. So any disease like hick and anything like that, if your nitrogen cycle, which is nitrogen cycle, those 3 things, if the nitrogen cycle is off, that will encourage diseases and parasite to get into to affect your fish even more, and your fish won't be able to resist to those things. So you'll have other thing like that. But those 2 here, ammonia and nitrate, they will cause fish death. You'll have like probably, you start with like 20 fish and then you might have like 1 dying and you don't know why every couple of days. They might not look like there's anything wrong with them, but that would cause a big issue. So for those 2 things, the only thing that you can do is test your water. This is how we're going to be able to help if you have question on any Facebook group or forums anywhere. This is the first thing that we're going to ask you. Now, the other thing will be your nitrate. So nitrite, it's okay if the level's not at 0. Like actually, if you have a good cycle, and your beneficial bacteria are good to turn over the ammonia into nitrite and the nitrite into nitrate, you're always going to have a little bit of nitrate in your tank. How quickly it climbs up depends of your maintenance, so your water change, and the plants, because this also feeds the plants, right? Like fertilizer is usually mixed with lots of nitrite, and this is what makes your plant thrive. There's a perfect example here in my Trophis tank. I grow lots of photo plants, and here they're in a planter box that's in the tank. And I get some video about that. I'm gonna do an updated video about this to show you guys how it works really, but there's one video that you can look at in there. I explain how I got that started. But anyway, so I got that because I got lots of fish in my tank, and my level was climbing rapidly through the week. I do 50% water change, and even that would make the level way too high for those fish. So having plants in there that absorb most of the nitrate, and I can keep everything under control, no problem in here. Okay, so what you're going to start seeing is at 5 ppm and 10 ppm, even 20, like all of those are good, no issue in your tank. If you're starting to have, now I grow this on purpose, but I even put some fertilizer in the tank to grow algae. But if you're somebody that don't want to see algae in your tank, I grow some green algae because those Trophis, they eat green algae, so it keeps them busy all day. But if you're somebody that don't want to see any algae in your tank and this is bothering you, well, as that level of nitrate climbs in your tank, 20 ppm you'll start having a little bit. At 40 you'll start like growing algae pretty quickly. Nitrates won't just affect your plant grow in your tank and algae grow, but it also will affect the baby growth. So if you have some small babies that you're raising in your aquariums, if you pass the 20 to 40 ppm, if you pass the 20 to 40 ppm of nitrate and you're getting into the 40 ppm, it's gonna slow down quite a bit how fast your fish are going to grow. And then if we go all the way down and you start reaching 80, 160 or higher than that, then your fish will start having health issues. Well, now you understand why a test kit is so important to diagnose what's going on in your tank. And you know, you can fix probably, like, I would say 80% of your issue by just knowing what those levels are. So keep track of them. You should, you don't have to go crazy testing all the time. Like, it's good to start testing. If you're a beginner, it's good to test for the first couple of months, like maybe every week, to see what's going on with your level, if everything is stable in there, how your nitrogen cycle is progressing and stuff. But after that, you pretty much just, test it if something's happening in your tank. Like, you start having a little bit extra algae. Well, what's going on? Like, do you need to start doing a little bit more water change, or extra maintenance in there? Or are you over cleaning things? Like, that's gonna be the start. So yeah, hopefully that helped, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.